Hello everyone, in this part of the lesson we're going to create this cocktail ring here. Okay, we're going to start from the center out with our oval gemstone and we'll work our way out from there with our subsequent stones, and then we'll finish off with our shank. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file, basic closed solitaire, and we'll just give it a simple name, cocktail ring. Okay, and I'll confirm that. Okay, so here we are in our part level. I'll just point out again that I am in CAD Dream full version, not the light version. Okay, but I'll only be using the tools that are available to light users. Okay, but just in case you notice any different commands in this uh, um, layout here. Okay, so we have our history. Now, one thing I like to do before I start building, just a little thing, you'll notice that we don't see our model stop here. It's because our model stop is within this folder. Okay, so any operations we start creating or performing, they're going to be added into that folder as well. Okay, so what I like to do, let me undo that, is I like to move my model stop out of that folder so I can leave that as the template folder. And to do that, I just hit the play button. Okay, you see the model stop jump out, and now all of my operations will be outside of that folder. Okay, so that's something I just like to do. Okay, so like I said, we're going to come in with our center oval first. I'm going to place the oval stone. Okay, we'll make it quite large. We'll go for a 2 carat, and we'll place it on the center gemstone datum up here, and I'll confirm that. Okay, I just want to bump up this stone. I want to raise it up a bit, so I'm going to show the dimensions for my ring sketch, the template sketch. So I'm going to right click and toggle the dimensions. Okay, and this is the dimension I want. I'm going to increase this to 6 millimeters. Okay, 6 millimeters off the ring finger of our girdle. Okay, let me close up that folder. And to get rid of these dimensions, I can just use the toggle here, turn all dimensions on, then off. Okay, it grabs them all at once. Or we could have toggled it from the operation in the history. Okay, so I'm going to come in straight away with a wire setting for this center stone. So I'm going to use my wire setting, and we'll find the oval on the left here. Let's just place it on the stone, and then we'll update our parameters. So we know we have a 9.8 in length. Okay, in width, we didn't have a value for that, so let's move it and see what we get. I'm going to match it. Doesn't look like we're matching it there. I think it will be a 7.8 if I'm not mistaken. Okay, if it is, if you wanted to be sure, let me cancel that. If you wanted to be sure, just come to the inquire distance. Just do a distance inquire from edge to edge. 7.85 in fact, really 7.84. So let's do that. Gem settings, wire setting. Do it again, place it again. We have the 9.8 by the 7.84. Okay, really that's unnecessary to be that specific, but there we go. Okay, so I want to make this a bit deeper. In fact, it shouldn't matter too much because I am going to be trimming this out later. I want to increase the diameter of my prongs at the top. I want to make them thicker, so let's go for 1.25 at the top, and we'll go for a 0.75 at the bottom. Okay, while I'm here, prong height above girdle, let's make them a bit larger because I'm going to probably offset this in the negative, the halo, negative elevation. Okay, so the prong down at the bottom, Alright, we'll leave that. The seat width, okay, I want to increase this, make it a bit chunkier, add some more material. Let's go for 0.8. You could even go for 1 millimeter, but I'll go for 0.8. Bezel origin, okay, I'm going to drop this down 0.5 millimeter. Okay, that's down 0.5 millimeter. We'll leave these nudges. Top bezel height, that's this thickness here of the top bezel part, because this is in 3 parts, top, bottom and middle. So the top bezel height, let's just make it a 1. I probably will erase the two at the bottom and the middle, but we'll get to that later. So I'm not going to do anything to the bottom bezel height. Gem length bottom and gem width bottom, I want to have pretty straight prongs, so I'm going to bring this up quite close to the actual top as well, so we have a pretty straight. I don't want much of a taper there. And the bend, we'll take the bend out a bit, okay, because the bend is exaggerated when we straighten this out. So I'm going to work with this, and I can make some modifications later on if I need to. I don't want to use the tweak, so I'm going to cancel out of that, and that is our wire setting. Okay, so I'm going to merge it, turn it into a shape, and I'm actually going to erase, like I said, I'm going to erase the middle, and I think I'll take out the bottom as well. So now we just have this top, like an under bezel. We'll add, well, we won't add a chamfer to it just yet. Okay, I think we'll trim out these prongs to the bottom of this surface. So let's do that. To trim these out to that surface, I'm going to insert a datum, the 0 offset on that surface, confirm, and then I can just trim them very neatly, picking them as the trimming base shape, and the trimming shape is this datum plane. The arrow signifies which side we're going to keep, so I need to flip that, and to cap them we want to keep the trimming shapes. Okay, when we're using a datum plane as our trimming shape, okay, it's not a shape, it's a datum plane, so whether or not we have this checked, that datum plane will remain there. Okay, so we've trimmed them out now, and we'll probably add a fillet to them later on to just make them a bit more appealing. So we're going to come in now with our first ring of gemstones, okay, and I'm going to be using under bezels on these stones and prongs, and I'll be using the gems between two curves command to get the stones in the first place. So before I do any of that, I need to create the surface that I'm going to place all of this on. Okay, so to create the surface, we could create an outline in a sketch and turn it into a surface, but we've got this other tool that will be quite neat in this application in the freeform. Okay, we have, let me see where this is, face at angle. Okay, this is going to create a face at an angle to a current face on a curve. So the face is going to be this outside of my bezel, on the bezel. The curve I'm going to pick as the top edge. You can see we already get a preview. We're creating this surface that will go all the way around that edge on that face, and we can set it to be at an angle to the face normalcy. Okay, so I'm going to set my distance, reduce the distance, bring it down. Let's go for 2.5. Okay, because this distance will dictate my gems between two curves. Okay, we're going to come in with an angle. Maybe I want a bit more of an angle on my gemstones. Not much though, something like that. I generally want a bit of a slope down of this cocktail ring, so we'll go for -5, and I'll confirm there. Okay, so this is the surface that we'll be using our gems between two curves on. Okay, and well, let's do that now. Pave, gems between two curves. Okay, now I want to have my gemstones to have a good symmetry about this oval gemstone. Okay, I probably want to have a gemstone. I either want gemstones at the 12, 3, 6 and 9 o'clock, or I want a line separating two gemstones at that 12, 3, 6 and 9. Now, the thing that influences where these gemstones start and end is where we pick our curves A and B. So we need to try and pick these if we're going to go for the split down that middle section, or the 3 o'clock. We're going to go for a split. So that means we're going to pick our curve, or our edges in this case, at precisely this point. Okay, we don't want to pick this edge, but we want to pick right next to it. Okay, and we'll do the same for the inside edge. Okay, but it's usually dictated only by this curve A. Okay, and then we pick our surface. So now you see we're starting with that split down the center. Okay, and this is fine. We don't need to set an elevation or anything like that. We've set our elevation with this surface. Minimum distance. Well, let's spread our stones, and we don't need to deal with a minimum distance. Now the number, like I said, I want that symmetry, so I'm going to need to have a number that will give that to me, so I'll increase these. Let me do a negative oversize. I'm going to change my step size down to 0.01, and I probably want to do a negative oversize anyway, just to they seem to be coming a bit close to my center stone there, so I'm going to do a negative oversize until we get our 16 in there. So now we have 16 gemstones. Okay, and we can see that they're being split at this 12, 3, 6 and 9 o'clock, so we got that nice symmetry. If we wanted to tweak it again, okay, once we have all of these set, we can then come in and repick our curve, and it's quite nice this way because we get a visualization of where our gemstones are going to be. Okay, so you can see how picking this curve A point affects the placement of our gemstones. So we want to have it dead on at that point in here. Well, close enough, okay? We're working with fractions of millimeters there. So I'll confirm these gems between two curves. Okay, so they're good. Now we're going to come in with our prong settings, and we're just going to be using our scaled prongs or uniform prongs. We'll go for scaled prongs. We're going to pick our stones as a feature. Okay, and these are the prongs that we're going to be using to set the stones. Looks like I've picked the center one by mistake. I'm going to unpick last, repick that feature. Okay, the height, 0.5, that's fine. The depth, I want to make these deeper. Okay, I want them to come below the bottom of our stone, the culet there, because these are going to be attached to the bezel, and the bezel has to become lower as well. I want them all to be in line with each other. So the depth, let's set it to be 1. Let's see what that will do. 1 will be fine. That will be fine. The distance, let's widen this up a bit, make that prong slightly larger. Okay, we're going to have to come down on an overlap to make that work. I usually like to decrease the overlap anyway. The overlap is how much of our prong is intersecting with the gemstone. Okay, and if we have this at 40%, it means that 40% of the prong is overlapped, which means we have 20% here and 20% here. Okay, so this is generally looking about right, and I'm going to confirm it there. And I will tweak, I'm just going to tweak the dome size do something larger. If we have 0.9s, okay, we can't have a dome size that is less than or greater than half of this value. Okay, so this is the diameter. We can't have a dome size greater than half of the diameter, which is the radius. So let's set it to be 0.4. Okay, and it will make it more of a dome shape at the top, more spherical at the top. Okay, so I like the look of them. The only thing is we have some clash here between our prong for our sunstone and this prong here. So all these sections. Now, looking at this, what would be pretty neat is if I could take out this prong altogether and use this prong for my center stone to set or to take on the role of this prong here to set the two corners of these stones. So let me first merge. I want to merge all of these prongs and turn into shapes, but I don't want to add them as I typically do prongs. I don't want to do the merge prongs command because this adds them to a shape. I want them to stay as individual shapes. In order to do this, I could come in, shape, merge, and pick the components one by one, but that would take a while. In the Tools and Cutters tab, we have a filtered merge. Okay, and this is the same as our merge cutters, our merge prongs. You'll see the options in here, merge cutters, merge prongs, but we also have other merge filters or functions. I want to do a merge base. Okay, I'm just going to merge them as bases, and that will make them their own shapes, and it allows me to pick features. Okay, so I don't have to pick individual components, so it's a quicker way. Confirm there, and then we have our individual shapes. Now I'm going to erase those corner prongs. I don't want them. And we're going to tweak the wire setting now to try and get these prongs to be just moved slightly into a better position. Well, okay, we seem to be okay. I'm just checking out the symmetry there because it doesn't look completely symmetrical at this point. But what I'm going to do, let's modify our prong first to try and get it in a better position, and then we can worry about these this here. So let's come in and tweak our wire setting. We're going to edit the wire setting. Now I know that I need to move this prong slightly further around. Okay, maybe I'll move it out a bit. So what I can do to move it around, okay, I use this prong distance along curve. So if I tweak this a little bit, maybe 13, hopefully we'll just see a small budge up that way. There's a small move there, it was hard to make out. I also want to move them further out, and this will be the prong nudge top, so let's change this to a negative 0.25, and this will move them out away from our center stone. Let's see that. Okay, it was very minute, but hopefully we'll see the difference when the history is replayed. Okay, we should see a better overlap with our stones. Okay, so that's better, and that is enough material to set those stones. Okay, well, what I said, I'm a bit concerned. It looks like we have a slight discrepancy between this stone and this stone. They don't look completely symmetrical, and they should be. So this is coming down to our placement of our gemstones. If we come into a top view, let's see if it's really an issue. You can see it's slightly off center there. Let's try and just modify our gemstones. Okay, this has been a bit anal here. It is minute values that we're playing with, but let's see if we can just tweak it slightly. There's not really much I can do unless I just get really close into this edge and just pick it as close as I can without picking that other edge. And we'll do the same for this one, repick it. It's pretty much already dead on there. I'm not sure how much or a difference this will make. Okay, we'll replay. Let's see if that did anything. Let me zoom out. And, well, I'd say we have better alignment there, better symmetry. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Okay, so next up we're going to come in with our under bezels for these stones. Now, let me blank out this shape. I'm going to create an under bezel for one of these gemstones, and then I'll copy it to all of the others. Now, this is where we could use that pattern with curves command, but we're going to use it later. We're going to use a different one here. We're going to just do a copy frame to frame. It'll make it more simple and ensure that we have that dead-on alignment. So I'm going to create gem settings, under bezel, round. Okay, I'm going to place it on a stone. I forgot what these stones were in diameter, so I'm going to cancel out of here. And where is it? In tools, cutters, inquire stone. Of my cursor, we have 2.11 millimeter stones. Okay, so I'll come in with that under bezel again. Round 2.11, and let's place it on just this one, for example. Preview 2.11. Bezel length below girdle. I want it to match these prongs here, and well, I'm going to give it a negative elevation. Let's go negative 0.05, see if that brings it closer. In fact, it's taking it too far. Let me reduce my bezel length below girdle. Okay, we're splitting hairs actually. Alright, but there we go, that looks good. The seat width, I'm going to make this a 0.4. Thicken it up. 0.25 is too thin really, so the default is not so good there. And the bezel angle, I don't want an angle, 0. Okay, so I'll confirm that. Now, let me cancel a tweak, I don't want any tweaks. I'm going to merge it, shape, merge as a base, okay, create its own shape. I just want to get rid of these gemstones now, just so that I can see the bezel clearly. I'm going to check off the melee gemstones layer. So here are the JCT datums that I'm talking about that I can copy to. Before I do the copy, I want to do any changes to the bezel now before I copy it. So I'm going to add a chamfer, a seat for the stone, 0.25, and while we're at it, let's add in some fillets. I'm going to add a loop fillet on the bottom. 0.25 is going to be too much. Let's do a 0.15 because we have 0.4 in width there. 0.15, and why not, since we're here, let's add this also to these prongs and also the bottom of this under bezel. And you know what, let's add it to all of our other prongs as well. Okay, maybe it would have been appropriate to pattern or copy these prongs as well after we've made these adjustments so that we don't have to do it. Select them all like this, but it's not a huge inconvenience. Okay, I think I've got everything there. Confirm. Let's save. Okay, so now we're going to copy this frame to frame. Copy, frame to frame, pick the shape. The from frame is the gem datum, the JST datum for that gemstone, and the two frames are all of these other datums. So we should have 15 picked here. Let's check. 15, perfect, confirm. Okay, you can see this cocktail ring taking shape. Let's bring back our gemstones. Okay, so that's not bad so far, I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we can move on to our outer our outer stones. Before I do that, I want to create something that I can connect the outermost prongs to down here. So I'm going to create this small, I guess like an undercarriage type thing. I'm going to do that by wrapping this underbezel to the ring finger. Okay, so I'm going to extrude the ring finger first of all to create a surface that I can wrap onto. Drag it out. We'll do a symmetrical extrusion as a base and no end caps. We just want the surface. Okay, doesn't matter, but it's just nicer. We can see things a bit more cleanly. Confirm there. Okay, so now I'm going to do a morph or wrap two faces morph of this underbezel. Using what datum shall I use? I will use, actually conveniently enough, well, I need to have a datum on the bottom surface of this underbezel. Now, I did create a datum on the bottom surface, this one here to trim to, but it needs to be in the center. Okay. Actually thinking about this, I probably just want to take out this fillet from the underbezel that I created earlier because I can add in the fillet later. I don't want the fillet on this lower portion, so I'm going to edit that fillet operation first. And I'm just going to come into the faces and hold down the control key and left click on that corner and it unpicks it. Now let me also, I'm going to hide the center stone. Now I need to redefine, because I need this datum plane to be in the center of this underbezel. So I'm going to redefine it, this plane here, redefine, and probably an easier method would have been to pick an XY plane and put the origin, well, offset, yeah, I'll just do the origin and then we're going to use an inputting option. Right click, middle, or rather cancel that, right click between, I want it to be 50% between 2 points and two end midpoints here. So I've got 1 point there. Can I snap to one there? No, but I'll use another inputting option. So I want it to be the midpoint between this point and this point over here. I can't snap to anything, so I'm going to use another inputting option. Right click, curve surface intersection, pick the edge. The surface will be a front datum, and we see it snap in there. Okay, so now we've got that dead center, that datum plane. Okay, and it'll still be trimming. Our Y setting is just replaying. Okay, it looks like I'm going to have to redefine that trim. It's trimmed out the wrong side, so let me redefine that. And I'm going to have to flip the side. Okay, so we're back in business now. So we have that datum plane there. Okay, everything looks good. So now let's come back into our wrap. Two faces, picking the shape. The datum is now perfectly in the center, and it's also at the bottom surface of this underbezel, which means the bottom surface will be laying on this surface. So we pick the face, the origin, we want it to be right at the center there. Snap it in, and then we specify the horizontal direction. We want it to be same orientation. You can even pick that. Well, that's a little off. It's funny, it's not looking perfectly orientated there. Let's see if that actually is affecting. It's not actually affecting the shape, so that's fine. Okay, so there we have this underbezel, this lower portion. It's wrapped down there, the undercarriage, but it's too big, so I'm going to scale it in this wrap operation, we have conveniently a scale command. I'll just reduce the slider and bring it down much smaller. Let's go for -40. And I'll confirm there. Now we can erase the ring finger shape. And there we go. Okay, it's a bit thin. Let's beef it up a bit. We'll do a face offset on the inside and drag it thicker. Let's go 0.3. One thing I forgot is to keep the original in the morph. I need to redefine that. I want my original under bezel. Still want that, so I'm going to redefine it. Keep original. Confirm. There we go. Okay, now we can add in our changes to this bezel. We can add that fillet again. Maybe we even want to increase the magnitude. Okay, we can add a chamfer in here. A seat for the stone. Let's go for 0.5. Okay. It's still looking a bit thin. Let's see if that offset was... It looks like the offset might have been performed on the wrong face. Maybe on our original there. So let me redefine. Okay, it's picked the wrong surface there. I want this surface. Okay. Okay, so I want to bring back my surface, original surface. Now we're going to come in with our next layer of gemstones. Again, I'm going to have a gemstone. Well, I'll create a surface and we'll use a slightly different method. This time we're not going to use a gems between two curves method. We're going to be using a pattern. Okay, and the reason for that is because I want to get my gemstone to be in this orientation directly at 3 o'clock. So I'm going to insert a datum plane for me to place a gemstone on. So I'm going to insert datum plane. Now the datum, I'm going to have to create it about here. Which method would be best for here? Let me use... I'm going to use the probably the side. This one, the side. Where is it? Okay, and I'm going to place the origin at the intersection point here, and I can let it snap in there. There is a snap there. Place it there. The offset, I'm going to offset at 1.25 millimeters. Okay, and then I'm going to change the orientation of this datum. First of all, I want to flip the Y down, so I'm going to come down on the X there, about the X, and I'm going to rotate it about the Z direction. In fact, it doesn't matter too much about that. I don't need to do that. But looking at this, I want to have that angle again that I had. I want to continue an angle. Okay, so this gemstone won't be at an angle like this. So I want to modify this. Okay, I'm going to have to move this datum plane down a bit. The angle. Well, let's see what that -75 angle works out for us. So I'm going to confirm it there. And I'm going to have to move this down a bit. It's going to be too high, that gemstone. Move along direction, the datum plane, down the -Z. So where are we? Here we are. And well, not that much. Maybe we'll just move it down 0.5. Okay, so this is the datum plane that we can place the gemstone on. Now, before I place the gemstone, I need to take into consideration how I'm going to apply or pattern that gemstone and the settings to my around this oval. And for this method, I'm going to use the pattern, and I'll use the pattern at curve. I'm going to be patterning the datum plane about this edge. Derive spacing, I want to have 16, or let's see, 15, yeah, I need 15. Now, what we can see going on here, let me just count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I need 16 in there. Okay, so what we can see is this pattern is not keeping the correct orientation. Okay, so we have, it's patterning around, but they're moving closer in. So we can force a distance and a normality, a distance from this edge for them to be patterned to. And to do that, we use our second option, two curves together. Now, this second curve needs to be perpendicular, or it doesn't have to be perpendicular, but in this case, we do want it to be perpendicular to the edge. So I'm just going to come in with a very simple line from the center of this datum plane to this edge. And this will act as that second curve. Now I pattern the datum plane with two curves, the edge and this line, this curve, 16, and now you can see that we're getting that nice spacing offset, the same distance from the edge. Okay, and now we're able to copy all of our gemstones, bezels and stuff onto these datum planes. Let's confirm that. So that is good. Let's save it. Okay, so now we'll come in with a gemstone on this first datum plane. And actually thinking about this, I don't need all of these datum planes, but it's a helpful visualization because what we'll be doing is just building up one portion, one side, and then doing some mirror operations. But we'll come in with the gemstone, see what we can get in there. I think I'll go for 3mm. Oops, unpick last. Okay, I'll confirm that. I think I'm happy with that angle there. And then I'm going to come in with an under bezel. Gem settings, under bezel, round, place it on this this gemstone, sorry. We have 3mm, bezel length below girdle, maybe we'll modify that later, the seat width, 0.4, angle 0, origin negative 0.05, let's see a preview. We need to ensure this is coming below the Q-lit there, so let's increase this. Okay, and I'll confirm there. And I don't need to tweak. Okay, so next we're going to just be we're going to merge the bezel and add our chamfer and our fillet, and then we'll pattern it to or copy frame to frame to these other datums. So let's merge the bezel. Let's hide the mealy stones for now. We want the chamfer in there. Let's go for 0.2. 0.25, why not? And the fillet on the bottom, 0.15. We'll bring back our mealy stones. Okay, and then I'm going to copy. Okay, I'm going to copy frame to frame. First of all, my bezel from frame to frames. Now, like I said, I'm only going to be copying where is necessary. Okay, I only need to do these ones because I can have mirror symmetry for these others. So I'm going to confirm there, and we'll be doing that mirroring later on. Now for the component, we can't do a copy frame to frame. We have to use a different tool because it's a component. We use the component replicate, pick the gemstone component, which is the seed, and the points will be these datum planes. Unpick last. Okay, it's coming in with an elevation. That's unusual. We redefine that. Okay, it seems to be forcing an elevation, and I don't fully know why. I suspect it's something to do with the way we moved this datum plane that we placed it on. Okay, so instead of doing the component replicate, let me undo that. Okay, what I'm going to do, I know it's a 3mm, let's just place some more stones. In fact, I'll place them, I'll come back to my manual stone that I used before. Okay, I'll edit that, and I'll just start picking more stones. We have 3mm. I'm just going to place them, I want them all to be in the same, oh, I unpicked, picked too many points there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and the reason I'm doing it back in this same operation is so that they all come in as a single feature. Okay, whether or not that's useful later on, I'm not sure, but I just like to keep it tidy like that. So the under bezels, they're still fine. Okay, so we have that portion complete. Now we need to create the prongs. We have the under bezels, we have the stones. Now we need to create the prongs. So I'm going to use the same method for the prongs, the scaled prongs. And I can pick a feature, so actually that is useful now. I'm picking the feature. Okay, we have no preview. This probably means that we need to decrease our overlap, for example. Let's say 30% to see if we get a preview. Okay, so this is interesting. We have our prongs preview there, but they're orientated completely off. Okay, they're in the wrong direction. Now this is understandable because they're not on a surface that is telling them which direction to face. Okay, they normally are placed normal to a surface. Okay, so they don't have that surface to tell them what to do. So we should create the surface. What we can do, we'll just do a freeform extend face. Let's extend this face, this edge. I mean, we can extend it 5, that's fine. It doesn't matter because we're just using it for the prongs to get the normal direction from. I guess one thing to consider is that this face, well, it's pretty close. Okay, so that's not bad. Let's try the prongs again. Scaled prongs, pick the stones, and let's see, overlap down to 30 again. Okay, we have that orientation good now, so that has solved the issue, just creating that face for them to get that normality from. The depth, okay, we need to increase this. Oop. Need to change my step size to 0.01 again. Okay, I want to bring them down to the bottom of the bezel there for 1.29. The height, let's increase the height just a little bit. Distance, well, that's not bad. I mean, we could increase the distance a bit and try and get the overlap with these other stones, but I think we're pretty tight there, and I think that's fine. We'll leave that at 30, confirm, and I'll just tweak the domes smaller. We'll go for larger, a 0.4, and confirm there. Okay, so now I'm going to erase this top surface. We don't need that anymore. There are our stones, our outer stones. Okay, so next up we need to come in with basically we're going to be connecting these outer prongs to this undercarriage. Okay, so the method we're going to use is we're going to sweep the bottom edge of the prong along a curve to meet this undercarriage. Okay, so we need to create these curves that we can sweep along. And the method I like to use here will be to use the blend tool. Now the blend tool requires two curves to blend between. So we need to create curves at the prong and curves at the undercarriage. Now curves at the prong are easy. Let me just merge these prongs first of all. Tools, cutters, filtered merge, merge base, and I pick them all there. Confirm. Okay, so these are merged. They're now shapes. Okay, so right, we want to create these inside prongs are fine. The outside prongs, let's first of all erase the faces, their faces. Sorry, I didn't need to go into there. Just erase the faces. Now I want to create a curve that I can sweep from here, and I want that curve to be normal. Sorry, I'll repeat that. I need to create a 2-point line or a line that I can blend from to create that sweeping curve. Now I want that line to be normal to this bottom, normal to where that bottom surface was, or what that bottom surface was. Now the way I'm going to create that line is wireframe, which is a 2-point line, and I can see I have my in the center there the JCD datum for the prong. So the first point will be there. The second point, I'm going to right click, center of curvature, the bottom edge, confirm. Okay, so now we have that 2-point line down the center of the prong, and that's what we're blending from. Okay, I'm going to copy this frame to frame, the curve from the JCD datum to the other prongs. Okay, I confirm that there. So we have our from curves. Now we need some to curves, okay? I want some lines on there that I can sweep into, blend into. Now I want them to be, I want these lines to be normal to these prongs from this surface. So down here, and down here. Now how can I create those lines on here that are normal to these prongs? Well, several things I could do. I could draw a 2-point line from here down to that edge, but I've got no way really of knowing that it's dead on normal. The second option, I'm going to create an intersection curve. Okay, there's many other options, but I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to create some datum planes between these two prongs. Okay, so I'm going to get a surface that is running directly down the center of these two prongs. And with that, I'll get intersection curves on my undercarriage. So I right click, insert datum. Now let's think about what method we can use. Let me think. I'm going to use I'm going to use the XZ plane, the front plane. Maybe. Let's see. Let's see how it works out. The origin, I'm going to right click, center of curvature of that top portion. The X point, right click, center of curvature of that next top portion. Offset 0, and well, that's not worked out for us. Okay, you can see the X is not actually pointing there. I think the option to use is the top plane. Let's see, because we want to be able to influence the direction. So yeah, to force the X direction, we're going to use this method. So I'm going to right click, center of curvature, and there we have that X forced across. Okay, so now we have that we have that direction directly from one down the center of one to the other. Now I just need to flip this about the X, okay, in either direction, just so long as we have that plane slicing through the center there. Confirm. So let's do that for the other datum planes, prongs, sorry. Insert datum, first option, the XY, not the first option. The origin, right click, center of curvature, that top portion, X point, right click, center of curvature of there. And then we have a 0 offset, and we flip about the X angle 90 degrees. Okay, so we'll do this for the last two. Right click, center of curvature, center of curvature. 0 offset, 90 degree flip. One more. This option, center of curvature, and the X point, center of curvature. 90 degree flip. Okay, so now we have those planes directly down the center, and this will be creating normal to the surface or wherever this intersection is. And we use now the inter-X curve. The first shape is going to be that top face. The second shape is going to be all of those datum planes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll give it a color. Let's go for red. Confirm. Okay, so these are the lines we're looking for. These are what we're blending into. We can erase those ones opposite. Oops, I picked something I didn't need to. Confirm. In fact, while we're at this, let's tidy up this environment. We've got a lot of datum planes in here. I'm not going to need these ones anymore. Let me just hide all the shapes, blank out all of the shapes. Let's get rid of all of the mealy stones. Let's get rid of the JCD template. Let's get rid of the JCD datums. And now let's do some arrays. We'll erase some datum planes. Let's get rid of that one as well. And we need those curves. Let's erase. We need those curves. We'll erase this curve. Middle click. Okay, let's save it there. I think we're good now. Unblank all shapes. And let's leave those gemstones out. Okay, so now we have our curve that we're blending from and a curve that we're blending to. So now I just need to do the blend. The first thing actually that I want to do, or the additional thing I want to do, is move these these lines down. Okay, I don't want them to be blending into there. I want it to be blending into the center of the undercarriage. So I'm going to move these four curves, window pick them, there's four curves along a direction, the negative Z, and we're just going to do a small distance, probably 0.5 millimeters. 0.5. Okay, and let's trim them to that surface because they have moved a bit there. Trim the four curves to this face, and we're going to have to flip the side to keep. Confirm. Alright, let's actually blank out these shapes now so that we can see clearly when we're doing our well, I'll blank out this one, and we'll keep these. It might be beneficial to see if we want to modify the weight of the blend. So we're going to blend from, let's start over here, this curve down to this curve. Okay, so this is the blend. This is what we're going to sweep along, and we can play with our continuity to influence the type of shape we get from our blend. start and end point. I'm going to just keep the default, so just blending, matching up each line to its corresponding one, and thinking ahead of time, I'm not actually going to blend this one into this line. I'm going to save this for later. I'm going to blend this into the shank. I'm going to blend it like that into the shank. Okay, so I'm going to save that for later. I'm not going to blend it into the undercarriage. Okay, so we're done there, and next up we're just going to sweep these edges along the curves to build up those prongs, and we'll cover that in the next video. Okay.